Hello everybody, you're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Rhylight Zone for a short story and or some poetry. We catch up with Twangling Jack Ford over in the Oak Shed for a weekly album review. And we play local, unsigned and or independent music. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Archer on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. You can also find us on Facebook if you search for The Archer on Wickham Sound. I can never remember when I'm doing these intros whether I already said this stuff or not. And you can email me here at the studio on dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. So this week we have a catch-up show, so we're going to be chatting to Mark Page and Emma Rosen, and this is Rob Full Stop with Older.
I promise you here one stuck in the middle of your indecisions. So try to make the world see through your eyes. You're right. It's not getting older, it's growing up that causes the problems, and your dreams they die when you decide to run. It's not getting older, it's growing up that causes the problems, and your dreams they die when you decide to run. Trying to solve the problems you reprise. To your surprise, there is nothing wiser than to let go and start over. Not getting older is growing up that causes the problems, and your dreams they die when you decide to run out of time. Time is gone, it's gone, there's no turning back. It's not getting older.
welcome to our side. Be the time in the infinite, in one and only life. Be the water turned into wine. Be the hero they vilify. Go on, Lord, come on. Be the writer of your own life. Be the author, don't be shy. Of your own life, be the author, don't be shy. I see your soul. I see your soul and the smile at the back of me. I see your soul. I see your soul and the smile at the back of me. I see your soul. I see your soul and the smile at the back of me. I see your soul. I see your soul and the smile at the back of me. I see your soul. I see your soul and the smile at the back of me. I see your soul. I see your soul and the smile at the back of me. I see your soul. I see your soul and the smile at the back of me. I see your soul. I see your soul and the smile at the back of me. I see your soul. I see your soul and the smile at the back of me. I see your soul.
That was Chaotic Harmony by Silverbacks, and before that we had Older by Rob Full Stop. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to be joined for this week's catch-up now by a local photographer, Mark Page. What's new with you since last time we spoke, which I believe has got to be at least 2 or 3 years ago since the last time you were on the show. So you've been pretty busy since then.
Okay, yeah, I think possibly last time we spoke was about Faces of Wickham exhibition, possibly. It might have been something after that. But yeah, so lots have gone on since then. I suppose the big thing is I've decided to take early retirement. So I'm not doing any full-time job now, but it just seems I've got no time at all on my hands anymore because I'm so involved with so many projects I've always wanted to do and now get involved with. So the big thing that I'm involved with at the moment, which will launch on Saturday the 31st of August, is a little exhibition called Revive and Thrive. And it's in conjunction with some of the people from Wickham Arts Centre, Wickham Community Board, Juliet Hamilton. And we've taken over the Wheat Sheaf, the old Wheat Sheaf pub in the High Street, which is Wickham's oldest commercial building after the church, on 3 floors. And we're going to be showing, sustainable fashion. So it's recycled clothing, what you can do with clothing. The middle floor, we've got up to 18 art exhibitors, all local artists from Wickham showing some of their work. And the top floor is going to be my section, which is the heritage of Wickham. So I've got thousands and thousands of photographs of Wickham that I've collected over the years. We've had quite a few blown up Lars, and so we're going to have an exhibition of Wickham heritage, photographs, souvenirs, unusual stuff from Wickham, knickknacks, bits of all sorts of paraphernalia, including my Wickham coin collection. So yeah, it's going to be a fantastic event running from the 31st, Saturday the 31st to Sunday the 8th. but only on market days. So it'll be Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So running for 2 weeks, but it should be pretty good. And it all culminates in something called Wickham Celebrates, which will be an event all down the high street run by the council. So that's the big thing I'm involved with. Side of that, I run my Street Life page, which seems to be gathering more and more and more information goes. This is where I just photograph buildings and people and things happening in my hometown of Wickham. Lived here all my life. One of the things I've been fascinated all my life, or since a young child anyway, is the rumoured tunnels underneath the high street. Are they there or not? I can almost categorically confirm they were there. I don't think there's any access to them these days. They were there. And I'm pretty sure they were tunnels from the brewery, which is on the end of the high street where the crossroads is, all the way down the high street underneath, with tunnels going out to the local pubs. So they delivered all the beer underneath. Now, I've been in a lot of the buildings down the high street now, down into the cellars, and you can see remnants. And remnants of where these tunnels were, where they've got the voltage roofs, but they've now all been bricked up. But that's been a good little experience going down there and trying to convince people why they should let me in their cellars and take photographs. But had a few objections, but we've got in most of them. I've got a couple of buildings I'm still trying to get into, and that's what High Wycombe Life magazine. I'm going to do a little feature in their next edition, just about mine and my colleague Andy Ailiff, our little exploits are going in the tunnels. So that's ongoing. I'm also involved in a bit different. A good friend of mine, Steve Colgan, somebody you also know, of course, author, presenter, Blue Peter badge holder, you name it.
He's done it all. Done a bit of everything. He's a member of the Eccentrics Club as well, isn't he?
Correct. Which I think he's a member of not Wickham, the UK Eccentrics Club. So yes, he's a. But again, somebody I've known for about 30 years. Really fascinating. And we were mutually talking about something over a coffee, and it was a coffee, not a beer. We were talking about something. He's had this idea of doing something called the Wheel of the Year, which is a calendar based on the pagan Sabbats rather than the 12 months of the Christian year as we know it. So that's been really fascinating to doing all the information, the study about the different all these different Sabbats, and then taking photographs to go with each one. So yeah, I'm involved with that as well. So
he's been documenting that on his YouTube channel as well.
Absolutely, which is he's gone absolutely crazy. I think something like 40,000 followers now or something. That's hitting out. That seems to have attracted an awful lot of attention. We may be wrong, but we can't find if anybody else has ever done a pagan Wheel of the Year calendar, which is partly factual and partly imagery. So it's an art calendar with all technical information to go alongside what the seasons mean, what the symbolisation is. So using Steve's skills of research and my skills as a photographer, we've worked together on this little collaborative offer, which is really good.
Awesome.
And I suppose the only other thing I think I shot High Wycombe Pride last weekend, which was lovely.
Yes,
absolutely incredible event. Matt and all the team at the O'Neill's and all the staff there and all the people at Turn Up Wickham. Fantastic event. Brilliant to see so many people out. What a lovely, friendly, incredible day it was to see Wickham really celebrating diversity. And it was incredibly good. So I had the honour of photographing that for them.
Yeah.
So, but the very, very last thing I want to say, as most people, maybe not everybody, some people know, that 2017 I was actually awarded the title of Erotic Photographer of the Year, actually Erotic Artist of the Year. So I work under a pseudonym of Photos of Attitude. It's something I've been doing for 20 years, photographing the alternative photography, the alternative lifestyles. And so I won this award back in 2017. I had my work exhibited in London. It's been in books. It's been around the world in different galleries. And I put a request out, say, is there any venue in Wickham that would be brave enough for me to exhibit some of my work, some of the more risque work, shall we say. It's not pornographic. It is art. It's erotic art. It does include some nudity, of course. And the guys at the Bellevue put their hands up and said, yes, please, we'd love to do it for you. So again, from the 7th of September to the 22nd of September, I'll be running a gallery in the Bellevue. So we'll have a VIP launch, and people can come and actually see the other work that I do. So, yeah, I'm I say retired, but never been so busy.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah, it's a good job you did retire, otherwise you'd never be able to manage all of
Absolutely.
this.
No, it's
Awesome.
must be, I'm feeling pretty tired. It's a long day today.
Yeah.
Went down today, got the keys to the wheat sheaf, did that. Then I had a meeting with Steve about the calendar. Then on this afternoon, I've been out photographing a band from Wickham that have reformed. They used to be called the Running Guns.
Mm-hmm.
Reformed. They had a massive following in Wickham. They've had a bit of a sabbatical. Reformed the group now called the Marquee Club. So I've been out shooting their album cover for them today, and then back in time just about for your interview for radio tonight. So
Yeah.
hope I can
Awesome.
have it
Well,
tomorrow.
well, I was going to say as well. I mean, because I like to ask this question, but I don't know whether you've even
Yeah.
had a chance to think about this. Of like, what's the future going to hold? Because we've kind of covered what's current with you now. If we were to sit down again in 2 or 3 years, what would you hope to have achieved by then? Had a good rest.
No, I mean I'm very very passionate about Wickham.
Yeah.
And it really annoys me when people keep slagging off the town. And I turn around and say to them, well, what are you trying to do about yourself? What have you personally
Mm-hmm.
done to try and make the difference? And I think that's what I'm really passionate about at the moment. I've lived here all my life. All my family's come from Wickham. Yes, it needs investment. It's not perhaps the prettiest place in the world at the moment, but there are plans afoot to try and improve Wickham with the artwork, the tidying
Mm-hmm.
up, the investment in some of the buildings. Hopefully, the children's centre being improved, Frogmore, the curve. So I think there's some big plans ahead for Wickham, but it's going to take 4 to 5 years
Yeah.
to have a real noticeable difference. But wherever I can, I want to try and be part of that and try and say to people, look on the positive side, and if you feel it's wrong, do what I did, which is get involved. Go
Yeah.
and join some of these subcommittees. Go and put your hand up and say, yes, I'll do that. I'll go and pick some litter up, or I'll help do this, or I'll do a bit of volunteering. But go
Yeah.
get involved with your community and make the difference. Don't sit back complaining. Go and do something.
Well, there are so many organizations as well. Like again, you mentioned litter picking, like Chiltern Rangers do a ton of that stuff.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
even, one of the things I saw, the only negative comments that I saw around Pride were people saying, well, what about Armed Forces Day? What are we doing to
Yeah.
celebrate veterans? What are we doing to celebrate this? And what are we doing to celebrate that? And it's exactly as you say. It's like, well, you take the initiative. That's how Pride happens. It's not like the council has said, right, we're going to spend all this money on Pride. It's pretty much Steph Willis has said, I'm going to make this happen, and then she made it happen. So
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
and I,
Yeah. Steph and Matt have
yeah,
done that. They made Pride happen. They did all
yeah,
the organisation, contact everything. Same as what we're trying to do here with Revive and Thrive with Juliet Hamilton and
hmm
Dan Wilson and the other people. We've gone onto the council. Look, we want to do something. We want to let people know there are things going on in Wickham. It is a good place.
yeah,
In my old job, I travelled around the country, and I remember going to some of these places as a kid and loved it. You go back there now, every town is the same. There is a lack of
yeah.
money, there is a lack of investment. It's a fact of life, but let's make the most of what we have got. And I say, instead of complaining, get off your backside and go and do something.
Yeah.
Get involved.
Well, and as you say, you're a big advocate of the fact that there's a thriving artistic scene, there's a thriving music scene, and Wickham's
Yeah,
also got a lot of kind of cultural and historical heritage as well with the chair making towns. Again, even the things like the tunnels that you've explored and things like that.
yeah.
Um, I think that's actually quite a nice metaphor. That's what I think people maybe miss when they criticize Wickham, is they're not going beneath the surface and looking at what's actually there. They're just taking a surface level look. And then, as you say, you could make that same complaint about literally every town.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we've got some amazing places, I'm not going to name more, but the Art Centre, what a fantastic place it is. Obviously, I do a little bit of volunteering there myself, but the events they put on there and the work that goes on in the background to put on live entertainment and, art, crafts, acting, theatre, drama,
Well, and even
WWE.
like,
I mean, it all goes on down the Art
yeah,
Centre.
yeah, and even as you say, even with like the Bellevue putting on the photography
Yeah,
exposition, not a lot of pubs in a lot of towns would be willing to do something like that. Most of them, even
yeah,
again, look at all the open mics that are around, all the jams that are around, all the pubs are like very supportive of the local scene as well, which just all helps
absolutely.
to add
Yeah,
to it.
people like the Rosen Crown, Desperate Road,
Hmm.
great team, great musician down. Bellevue, you've mentioned. The Front Room, what an amazing place.
Hmm.
And who can forget the air raid shelter? Look what Chris has
Hmm.
done down there with the shop on Frogmore. Incredible the work is done down there. And 90% of that stuff in there has been donated by the local people. So, if you want to step back in time and see what the world was like in the 1950s, go in the air raid show and just go and have a look around. It is our second museum, in my opinion. It is an incredibly good place. So, open your eyes and go out and have a look. And even the cultural diversity of Desborough Road now with the artwork and the shops, the food shop, Bassey food store. Incredible. Place. But, yes, it has its problems, Wickham, but open your eyes, look around, look up, look at the buildings and, get involved.
Yeah. Come to the Wheat Sheaf and learn the history.
Yeah, well, I say, building dates back to about 1500, I think it is, and, hopefully people will come down just to have a look at the building. There will be some talks about the building, what it's been throughout its life. There's even, there's some massive fires back there in about 1700, I think, but all the beams, they're like 500-year-old beams, 500-year-old beams. There's all the scorch marks on them there still. You can see the buildings where the place is on fire, but it's still standing. And it should be celebrated,
You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. I'm here in conversation with local photographer Mark Page, and this is Straight 8 with their version of Move On Up.
Hush now, child, and don't you cry. Your friends might understand you. Well, bye, bye. Well, move on up to your destination. Now you may find from time to time complications. Woo, come on. Bite your lip, take a trip. Now there may be a winter rolling, and you may slip. Move on up, and peace you find. Into the steeple, a beautiful baby, till there's only one kind. Woo, come on. Move on up, and move on up. Move on up, oh child, just move on up. Move on up, and just move on up. Move on up, oh child, just move on up now. Woo!
That was Straight 8 with Move On Up. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's time for us to be joined now by Emma Rosen for another catch-up sesh. Cool. So, as you know, it's mostly about catching up with what's new with you since we last spoke. Now, I can't remember exactly when we last spoke, but I think it was around about the time I think you just published Lily the Limpet. So, what's new with you since then?
Gosh, that's a really long time ago. The biggest thing I would say is I'm working on a series with Natural England, they're sort of under DEFRA. They're like a sort of policy enforcing body that work to protect nature within the UK. And I had this amazing opportunity to work on this commission series. So we're looking at marine habitats, and I've done 2 books in that series. Hopefully it will continue, but that's always going to depend on funding and, different areas and what have you. And obviously the recent election had an impact. So I just hope it continues because that's really fun. And I'm actually working on another project with them at the moment. about soil. So that's going to be a different, like a cousin project, I guess. But yeah, just the most amazing opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and your background's in marine biology and back in the day, right? So I guess it's nice for you to kind of go almost full circle. I suppose you did some similar things again with Lily the Limpet, but you know, to be able to write about those areas that you're so passionate about, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I I think we talked about this before, that I don't have, like, some people have a genre, so they're just horror or they're
Mm.
just romance. I'm kind of, I like these things. That's my genre.
Yeah.
But yeah, focusing in on science and nature and particularly the marine environment it's just a massive privilege.
And so those two books that you mentioned that are already out, what are they called and where can people get hold of them?
So that the series is called Discovering Marine and Coastal Habitats, and the first book was Secret Seagrass Meadows, and the second one was Captivating Kelp Forests, and that only came out in I think February, March-ish. We
Hmm.
launched it at the Isle of Wight Story Festival, which again was just such an amazing experience. I'm very grateful.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us a bit more about what that was like and also just some of the events you've done in general? Because I know you're a busy woman when it comes to events and you know you speak in schools and do all of these things. You know, what have you been up to over the last year or so events wise?
Yeah, so that was amazing. We did a sort of craft type event, like a free flow thing where there was writing and drawing and science stuff and a video and VR and all sorts going on. So families could sort of come in and see what they felt like doing. And then we also did an official book launch talk. But we saw something like, I know it was over 50 families. I can't remember the exact number, but it was wild. And, you know, there were big names there. I had a chat with, oh, what's the guy's name? Kes Gray,
Hmm.
from Oi Frog, and Nicholas, oh, I can't remember his surname, who did the Queen's knickers. But there were lots of children's authors and stuff. It just, yeah, that was super exciting. But yeah, I think I focused more into doing like book related events or bigger, like I used to do small local craft fairs. I tend to only do big
Hmm.
ones now, or literary festivals, author events, because I just can't afford the time really to do the smaller ones, and I feel like I cut my teeth on those, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then yeah, going into schools, doing school visits. I did quite a lot this year. I did like a launch. I had a free assembly offering for Captivating Kelp Forests, and I
Hmm.
still, that's still available actually. If a school wants to book just an assembly, then I can come
Yeah.
in. But yeah, that's amazing getting to go in and chat to kids about this stuff and do writing workshops and all sorts of bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
It's funny. So I've been watching over the last couple of weeks. I've been watching the National Trust and the English Heritage YouTube channels, and both of those, particularly the English Heritage one, they have a lot of really great stuff, videos from their events with kids, like just like silly little things. Like earlier today, I was watching. They had it was like a kid about 8, 9, 10 years old, interviewing two people in character as Harold and Norman from the Battle of Hastings, and being like, you know, why do you think you should be king, and all of this stuff. But there's some really great stuff when you get, you know, those kind of people in who aren't teachers to come in and provide like an extra touch point. Like one of them, they had one of the days they had like this guy. He went in. It was like almost like a Victorian jobs fair kind of thing, and he went in character, being like, "Well, you could be a chimney sweep, and you could be one of the knocker uppers. You know, the people who used to go around before alarm clocks and make sure people got up for work." And at the end, I had an interview with one of the kids, and he was like, "Oh, I wish Mr. John was our teacher all of the time because he was so interesting." And I was like, "Yeah, well, it's true. Like the memories that I have of sort of primary school in particular, it's not the day-to-day stuff of, you know, learning from my teachers, although obviously that's important. But when somebody came in and talked about something, whether it's history, you know, geography, or, you know, something like the yourself covers, it really stands out and brings the subject to life, I think."
Yeah, I think it has an enormous impact, and there have been studies that show that an author coming in has a huge impact on literacy and
Hmm.
love of writing, love of reading. And I think, like you said, it's more memorable. But for me, I think there's two big things. One is showing that it's possible. If they've actually
Hmm.
met an author, it's not this like ethereal like celebrity will never be able to do that. It's, oh, I met one and they were just a regular person. And the other thing is, I think there's a lot of focus, particularly the way that the curriculum's changed since like the Michael Gove stuff in whenever that was, 2010, where writing is a lot more about technicalities, and this is how we put the mechanics of language together. And there is a place for that, obviously. I know that you do work doing sort of editing and this, that, and the other, but it should be about joy. Creativity is all about being human and expressing ourselves. And, you know, you can employ an editor, you can deal with that stuff later. And I just think that there should be a balance, but that balance is gone. So being able to go in and kind of say to children, right, I'm not interested in how you spell it or whether it rhymes properly or whatever. I don't care. What do you want to write? And sometimes I'll go in, like, I did a day at a special needs school, and I was asking them to write things about the environment and like a place that they love. And one of the children was like, well, I don't want to write about that. I want to write about, I think it was planes. And I was like, cool. So change up what I've done and just go down that angle. And he loved it. And that's what it's about. Because if all you do is this dry stuff around grammar, and sometimes their writing is like take a story and rewrite it with different characters or whatever, there's no creative process in that, and it's just such a shame. So for me, that's like a really big focus as well, is like, let's just spend some time just enjoying this. I think as well, writing is so good for you. If you have no intention of ever publishing or sharing your writing, it's good for your brain. So yeah, I'm all for just encouraging I think there's a lot of feeling like you can't do it as well, like, oh, I'm not a very good writer, and it doesn't matter. So that's it's a big thing for me.
Well, and I think there's parallels there as well with reading. You know, a lot of people think they don't like reading because their only experience of reading was, you know, doing like Shakespeare and Dickens and stuff at school and having to analyze every sentence. And they've never really just sat down with a book and just loved reading for the sake of reading. I think there's, again, as you say, with the writing, there's a place for both. And it's a shame when you over focus on, you know, the technicalities of it and kind of leave the creativity aside. It's almost like they're two different subjects that both should be taught.
Yeah, if you make someone read, they don't want to read. And of course, there's a place for saying you should read regularly and you need to sort of develop these skills. But it is really hard to keep that joy in it and to encourage reluctant readers and things. But I think that just really focusing in on doing it for fun and stopping the whole, well, you have to, and if you don't, then, you know, it just, I do feel really strongly. And I think in terms of reading, there has been a change in schools. There's a big movement around reading for pleasure, and a lot of primary teachers are making beautiful reading areas.
And I've seen some photos and things of those.
Brilliant. And there is a really good Facebook group actually called Reading for Pleasure, where teachers and authors and all sorts of people share their ideas. But I think writing hasn't had that yet. There needs to be some kind of renaissance. And I think it is a fear. It's a little bit like maths, let's say. If you just think, oh, I'm bad at maths, and then you shy away and don't try, I think it's the same thing. But we just need that, like, it's okay. It doesn't matter if you're not good at it. Just have a stab at it and enjoy it.
Yeah. All I wanted to add as well, so I recently read a biography on Terry Pratchett, and it said in his early days, he used to, similar to you actually, he used to go to a lot of like the sci-fi and fantasy conferences, and then he kind of, after a while, he was like, I've done those now. I've kind of cut my teeth on them. I don't need to do them anymore. But one of the early ones he went to, he found himself standing next to Arthur C. Clarke at the urinals. And that was when he was like, oh, he's just the same as me, kind of thing. And that was, again, before Pratchett had ever written or really published anything. And it just shows you, you know, it's the same as with big name authors as quote unquote small name authors. We need to kind of know, oh, actually, they're just human beings as well.
That's it. I sat on a panel at the Isle of Wight Story Festival with all these authors and illustrators and felt massively out of my depth. But then there was a point where Kes Gray asked me about, he had self-published one of his books, and he was asking me about, he'd ordered like an enormous quantity of them, and he was like, oh, how do you sell them? What quantities do you order in and stuff? And I was like, why are you asking me? Like, who am I to? And yeah, as you say, you suddenly realise, do you know what? We're all just doing the same job, but in a different way. more people know your name, but you're just a person, you know. And of course, like, they have immense skill and they've written something that has managed to capture people's imaginations, but yeah, they're just people. And if you expose young people to that and kind of go, look, it's doable, and I just think that kind of aspiration is really helpful. And even if they're not going to be an author one day, it is just that, oh, there's like creative jobs, because the creative industry seems so untouchable, but just like, no, you can do it, it's a thing that's possible.
Yeah. Well, and you can find your own way in as well. So again, it's like you might not, as you say, it looks untouchable to go and be a published author under Random House or something, but it's like, well, there's this other alternative route you can take in. You know, if you want to be a journalist, you might not get to be a newsreader on the BBC, but you can probably work for your local radio station or newspaper or something. And who knows, maybe you will eventually get there. But it's not as untouchable as it first seems, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you can find joy in pursuing the thing that you love. And even if it is something that ends up more like hobby than career, that doesn't make it less than. I think lots of people can look down on that. And I think, I mean, we have this self-publishing versus traditional publishing thing, and you're still doing the thing. Like, it doesn't matter on what level you're at. So yeah.
Awesome. And just to end on, so where can people keep up to date with you and get copies of your books from?
So my website is emmarosenbooks.co.uk. It's Rosen like Michael, we're not related. And my books are on there and links to everything. But I'm basically Emma Rosen Books everywhere except TikTok, that has now made me Sartain Publishing Limited. TikTok's making me crazy. Eventually I'll figure the shop out. But yeah, I'm in all the places.
Big thank you to author Emma Rosen for joining me. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is Esther Hayes with 7 Stars.
7 stars lost their light. A burning sun knocked them out with all its blinding, raging might. Smashed them apart like a child with a hammer. Unconscious of the damage inflicting, unaware of the impact of careless actions. Careless actions. The stars had to learn the sun wasn't only to blame. The stars had to learn not to let the sun play this game. 7 stars lost their light, and with them left the night sky blank. Silly stars should have known, should have seen it coming a mile from home. There's nothing new here, trouble always follows the sun and all it's becoming. Stars had to learn the sun wasn't only to blame. The stars had to learn not to let the sun play this game. You played a game, always leaving me burned. I'm the one to blame for you, I always yearn. I screamed foul play, you smiled and walked away. For you, these things never mattered to you. Matters of the heart and nothing but clutter. 7 stars lost their light. Why did they never falter? Why did they never falter? with undivided dedication, unaltered. They hope for the sun to have changed, for this situation to have grown. The stars had to learn the sun wasn't only to blame. The stars had to learn not to let the sun play this game. The stars had to learn the sun wasn't only to blame. The stars had to learn not to let the sun play this game. You played a game, always leaving me burned. I'm the one to blame. Oh, you played a game, always leaving me burned. I'm the one to blame. For you, I always yearn.
I sat up and looked at the sky, watching the world pass me by. And I dream of my life without you. Then
That was Colourblind by Tom Bradley Jr. And before that, we had Esther Hayes with 7 Stars. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's time for us to head over to the Ilk Shed now to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review.
No More Sad Refrains, a Sandy Denny compilation. Twice I have ordered Sandy Denny compilations, but both times they never arrived. However, on one occasion I did manage to download the MP3s. I wanted a compilation to fill in the best bits from the albums I do not own. I do own all the Fairport Convention albums she appeared on. The first track on the compilation is a very folky song about the sad life of Mary Queen of Scots that appeared on the first of the Fairport albums she played on. Then we get Who Knows Where the Time Goes, the song she brought to the second Fairport album she was on, and is a much covered classic. There are tracks from Liege and Leaf, the Fairport album that started the genre of British folk rock, but it does not include the song O Come All Ye, which is a Sandy Denny original that sounds like one of those songs from days of yore. It is a song that fits in seamlessly on Liege and Leaf with all the other songs on the album that came about from researching old English folk songs at Cecil Sharp House. However, the compilation does include the song Farewell, Farewell, a Richard Thompson song that in the same way sounds traditional. Sandy Denny and Richard Thompson were a formidable pair. She sang on his Fairport anthem, Meet on the Ledge, and he played on numerous of her later solo songs. Fairport Convention were famous for changing lineups, yet they all seemed to stay friends and played with each other in various other folk rock bands, such as the Albion Band, Steeleye Span, and Denny's next venture after Fairport, a band called Fotheringay. The Fotheringay tracks were a bit more conventional rock and roll, whereas those left in Fairport had started to play jigs and reels like a hippie Cayley band. The Fairport family got together as The Bunch and recorded an album of old rock and roll songs. There are a couple of those songs on this album, including the Everly Brothers' When Will I Be Loved. Sandy Denny rejoined Fairport Convention for the Rising Up Like the Moon album. This compilation has a demo of her song A Stranger to Himself, which is a bonus track on the Rising Up Like the Moon CD. It does not have the other 2 tracks she sang on that album that I really like, the title track and White Dress. The first of her solo tracks are very uncommercial, not very folky, though her voice always has that English folky sound. She plays a grand piano and uses surprising, almost jazzy chords, obscure lyrics, and string instrumental sections that take the songs in unexpected directions. She made 4 solo albums, and the second one sees the start of her trying to be more commercial. Listen, Listen is another traditional sounding song, but it has been given a big rock production with strings and choirs of backing singers. There are some truly great songs taken from her last 2 solo albums. Songs like Solo, which has a soaring lead guitar, and Old Fashioned Waltz, another song that does not sound like it could have been written as late as the 70s. The later songs are characterised by even bigger lush strings. There is some Fender Rhodes piano and jangling electric guitar. It is much more 70s singer-songwriter than the English folk rock of Fairport Convention. It is great music that was largely ignored at the time, and sadly I was one of those that ignored it, though I was saddened by the loss of her great talent when she died young. My interest in Sandy Denny has mostly been a consequence of my interest in Richard Thompson, though mostly she is known for her duet with Robert Plant on The Battle of Evermore from Led Zeppelin 4. No More Sad Refrains, Sandy Denny.
Big thank you to Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review. Thank you to Mark Page and Emma Rosen for catching up with me. Thank you to everyone whose music I've shared. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. On Wickham Sound, listen again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. Find us on Facebook, search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound. You should be able to find us. And you can email me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. So I'm going to leave you with one last tune. This is Superlord with Wait. I'll catch you next week.